Ladies and gentlemen, what we're doing here is we are talking to a wonderful lady in Dublin, and we last met at the 20th. No, we were. She organised, her team organised the the Basis Project Conference in Ireland in 2017, and what a conference that was! And we did a lot of things, and we haven't really spoken publicly since then. The last time I was in Ireland proper was to see the UFO Megacon. It's UFO. No, it's not UFO. It's Expansion Consciousness Expansion Conference. Was that COMEC? And that was Ireland. Oh, whatever. Anyway, that was in Waterford, and they held, I think, 2 conferences there, and then the third one didn't happen because of some kind of interruption with some kind of foreign disease or something, and then basically it all broke up, I think. And we met in Dublin, and at the time, I think that was the 40th anniversary of Big D Radio and the Pirates, so that would have been 2000. Oh, God. Anyway, it's only a couple of years ago, but I think it was 2017 that you came to England here, so we are, and we actually sat outside in the beautiful sunshine in Wiltshire. And that was really big. And then we went over. I went over to. I think it was 2018. I went over to. We went to do some interviews with some very good people. A guy in Limerick, and he'd had some very interesting paintings that he had. And we also met a brilliant lady called a very mild, quiet-spoken American lady called. Claire Hinsley. No, you said I've got a Hinsley and a Hensley. Correct me here. But the most important thing is that we saw you.
Mary Helen.
And that's wonderful.
Lovely.
And those interviews were really big, and that was a really important conference, and that was all down to you guys, you and your team, and you were so eloquent on air. And we had Kerry Cassidy there, and we also were able to have that was there physically, and we went to St Patrick's Chair in Well. Did you follow us up to there, up in Monaghan? No, I don't think so. No. That was with Kerry Cassidy and her couple of people. And that was where I had the pirate station. Lawrence John, we had Energy 106 running until very recently before that, 6 years. Anyway, that's a whole lot of recap. It's Claire Hensley, is it?
Mary Helen.
Mary Helen
Hainsley
from the States. Crucially, she died and then decided to come back. But you also had another wonderful woman who went to Egypt. And what's her name again? We had quite a few over for that conference, but she'd also died and come back. And one of the key things about this...
And the experiences, very interesting.
I better put the headphones on. And then one of the key things about this is they died and come back. I call them bounce backs, but that's quite a big subject. About for some reason they'd gone and they would say, "Look, oh, you go back. You've got things to do." So, Katherina, welcome on the 13th of October, 2024. Nothing much has happened, and nothing much happening now, is it? Just make sure but it is. What's going on and how are you doing?
So what's going on? It's a good question, big question. What's going on? I would say a lot. Like we did the conference in 2018. That was really a milestone.
That was a big milestone.
Yeah, we met many interesting people at the time. So now in 2024, what has changed.
Let's recap. Who are you? You do very deep therapy stuff in Dublin.
I do, yes. Like I have my practice in Dublin. You can call me a therapist in a way. And
what do you call yourself?
Yeah, it's officially, that's what you would say. I'm a psychotherapist. But I would say perhaps I go a little bit outside of the classical definition of psychotherapy. because I incorporate regression therapy. I work with family constellations, ancestral healing. And I think like easiest to explain is the intent why I'm using different methods, not only talking therapy. Because I believe we as you could say as a society, as a collective, we are going or we are already in a certain time frame where we remember more who we are, where we came from, and all the people you mentioned, Carrie Cassidy, Mary Helen, Antoinette Glynn, so she
Yes, yeah.
organized journeys to Egypt. So we all have the same goal. We're just coming from very different directions. And the goal is to remember who we really are. And I think that's the foundation of my work and the way I like to contribute as an individual person, so to speak, in our collective moving on as a race.
Well,
And everyone is
there's a
playing
little bit there's a little bit of a thing here, insofar as that you have a really weird South Dublin accent.
right.
Now, just so that people get an idea here, it's got a bit of a twang to it. Is it County
Exactly.
Wicklow, or is it a
No,
little
no,
bit east to Dublin?
Dublin, but it's called the Irish German accent. You know that's what it is. Like I was born in Germany, raised in Germany. I grew up in Berlin. My ancestral heritage is Bulgarian. So my mother was Bulgarian, and my father from Congo, Republic of Congo. So I was born in Germany. Don't have any German heritage in itself, but the culture, of course, has an influence on me. So and
Actually,
that that's the accent you're hearing here, like my mixed
there's a couple of good
Irish.
friends of mine were German. Roland Burke, they were actually German, and we were on the Barrett radio stations, which was one of the last times I saw you was a celebration of that in Dublin all those years ago. But also the Congo. Is there a connection ET wise there? Deep knowledge in African
Wouldn't
culture?
know,
No,
wouldn't
no,
know, wouldn't know. Like I don't have that much connection there. Like don't like, at least not in the conscious connection. You know, like
because
and
now there's a lot of things happening in Africa. It's it.
in Ireland is also like I think it's everywhere. Like the way and I might just talk a little bit about it. That's the way also I do my work because everything it's linked, it's interconnected. So I do because before we came in or I came on the call, I was thinking, okay, what even to talk about? Like, and I thought like, okay, let's talk about it. What will be helpful for people in that moment of time? And I know there are so many issues, like people have relationship issues with their children, a lot of financial pressure. Some people have anxiety, depression, and I just thought, okay, let's talk about something which gives hope.
Yes,
So I believe, like we are in the country wherever either you move there or you're born in the country itself has its own setup. If you're in the US and the UK and Ireland, and has its heritage. And you can go from the big one, like nation, to the small one, the family unit. And like see when someone, for example, has financial difficulties, yeah, and maybe struggles to set up its own business, and for some reason it's not working what I'm doing with my work is to look and see and help the person to see is there any blockage. And very often, and I'm using the methods I'm using, and I can speak more about it. I'm using methods where we can see there are three main influences I discover why we see what we see. And I have to say, we are not victims here. We are not just stranded here. I don't believe that. Like we are born in a certain family because by choice. I know some people might scream, especially when they've been born in a very dysfunctional or a family where they experience a lot of abuse. They say like, oh, no, no way, that can't be. But like if you go what we might call a soul level, there is no accident. There's no accident. We are born in and but what we can do is we can change. We have a control how we can change things, not necessarily how other people are reacting, but how we see things, and we can manifest. It's something I would like to talk about it. We can change circumstances, but it's not necessarily only here in the physical, but there's the spiritual aspect, the spiritual realm, where it's non-physical, where it is more where we are using our inherited ability to manifest. And you know, and the business at the moment, it's huge. Like I know many people struggle financially. I'm just gonna stay there beside relationships. And it can cause so much stress, so much fear. So what I'm helping the person with is to become conscious or bring into conscious why do they experience what they experience, and most important, how they can change it. And these are the influences I found out what a person manifests basically. Yeah. And that can be subconsciously or perhaps consciously. They suffer from self-worth. Let's see. They have then tend to create more wealth, business, like that's one part of them. Another part of them is holding perhaps the belief where they picked it up when they grew up, like in a dysfunctional family, or teachers or whoever said that actually I'm not worthy, I don't deserve anything, and they will hold shame. So like what happened then, what they do, what they're sending out in the spirit, you could say, is like the intent, the frequency, yes, I want that, but actually I believe more that I'm unworthy. I actually believe I don't deserve that. So that could be in the system. I call it a system. It could be in the system of the person itself. It's your own unconscious beliefs, your own view, the way you see yourself. And this is one influence. Another influence I'm looking into with the methods I'm using, it's called family constellation and trauma constellations I'm doing, is we are embedded in our family system. Yeah. So that could be that generations before us, they were holding a certain work ethic, a certain belief system. Work hard, and only if you work really, really hard, then maybe one day, you will get there. And we can be connected with certain beliefs our forefathers actually were living. And it goes far beyond only belief patterns. It could be, I just give an example, yeah, like what happened to me. So I set up my practice in 2012, and I'm a trained lawyer. So I studied law, and but it was not fulfilling. Like I ticked all the boxes, like the expectation from the family. I have a decent job, you studied great, you have a great job. I worked in investment banking, and yeah, that looked good. No, you're someone, but I was so unhappy in it. I just felt like I cannot express
But
myself
what
in it.
brought you to Dublin? I mean, why set up a practice in Dublin? And what brought your intuition to deal with?
What Yeah, what brought me in there, it's like very, very simple, Miles. There was nothing magical from the outside. It was just my sister. So she moved into Dublin a couple of years before I came to Dublin. So I moved to Dublin in 2008. And I quit my job in the bank. I just make the decision, I don't want to do this any longer.
Was that in
And
it?
I
Was that in Ireland, in Dublin?
that like I worked in Germany. I had a really good job in the bank there, quit the job, moved to my sister. She was already a couple of years in Dublin. So I moved to Dublin. I just said, like, okay, start something new. I had no idea, never had the wish or the intent to go to Ireland. I wasn't even that interested in the country. I just came here because my sister was here. And then when I came here, so I started to retrain and really pursue what I felt, what I most enjoyed, and that hasn't changed. It is like
That's a
working with
big
people.
deal. It's a big leap. What calling happened to make you do that?
It's kind of like, well, what happened. It's kind of like, okay, have a little bit of adventure and try something new. It's always a risk, but like I thought I don't want to end up, back in the days like when I was working in the bank, where many of my colleagues, they were very frustrated to work there, but you had a really good income and a good outlook for pension, so it was very secure. And I just made a decision. I don't want to live like this. I don't want to look back at my life like 20 years later and just because of security reason, feeling safe, I didn't do what I wanted to do. So I took the risk. But that was not without anxiety. That's why I'm telling you that. So I coming back what I said, like in 2012. So I like after a couple of years being here, I decided and I retrained in different modalities and said, okay, I'm just gonna pursue my dream. And it was kind of like working as a therapist, supporting others. And so when I wanted to set up my own business, I had so much anxiety, like safety, security, because I was just used to have my income at the end of the month, like I knew what it is. And when I looked into that, I did a family constellation, and that's what I wanted to share here, even if it goes public. You know what I found in my family system? No, in my family system, there have been people lived before me where you would say they have certain abilities, clairvoyant. They could feel, sense things around people. They could look into the future. This is within my family, and I have an inheritance there, and I have certain abilities we inherited myself. And I didn't want to use them at the beginning. I wanted to really down to earth because that was so strange. And when I studied law, I tried to speak with some friends, but they said like, no, that's really strange. So I
Yeah, I mean, if
stopped.
you're studying law, it's one subject you just don't go on to fancy land with.
No,
You've got to deal with
you
really
don't
detailed,
go in the
hard.
other area. Like it was like very, very structured. It was a great way how to, I trained my brain to think in a certain way. It's also helpful, but I could not live that area. But when I wanted to start my own practice, so I had that anxiety and I saw in a family constellation, I did a family constellation and I saw an ancestor of mine. It was on my father's side and she was clairvoyant. And back in the day, they came to that lady to ask about the future, but she was kind of isolated. She was feared and kind of outcast almost. And I felt that fear and the loneliness, and I had it in my system. And then in the constellation, I have, just give me a moment to describe how it works for people that never did a family constellation, because that's just a question how is that working? So what you do is, let's say you have a group of 10 people and they come into a workshop. Usually it's a 1 day workshop, 2 days workshop. And the person who's doing the constellation will just briefly explain what it is. Like, see, in my case, okay, so I have that fear around opening, starting my own business. So they don't know anything about your family. You don't share that, and you don't have to share that. And then you pick people from the group. You say, can you please represent my fear? Can you please represent myself? Can you please represent my business? So that's what you do. And people, they will stand in the room. And what they're doing is they start to sense and to feel what's going on in your family system. That's really, really unconscious to them, but they resonate with that. And then they display what you do. You display a living picture, what's going on not only in your own psyche, but what happened before you, because it still has an influence on you. And like this knowledge is around for thousands of years. If you look in the Bible, it's written there in the Old Testament with the words, whatever you do will affect to the third or fourth generation. You will find it then. You will find it in shamans. They will know about it. You find it in different religions and different uh, um, um, nations. That knowledge, and this is really really true. So what I found out then when I did my own constellation, and I wasn't aware that we had that person. And one person in my constellation who was representing that my answer said they called me kind of like the witch. And I was so hurtful when I was hearing that. Then afterwards, I was ringing my dad because I had no knowledge about it. And I said, like, Dad, did we have anyone in the family who could foresee in the future? And you know what he said? Oh, you mean the witch? And like my shin just dropped because I never ever heard anything about it in my life. So what I'm trying to share, if there are people out there and they have difficulties, struggles, let's see, financially, struggles to hold relationships, a struggle, they maybe feel I cannot find my place in that world. Like I feel I'm not at home, like wherever I am, it feels like I'm not fitting in. I feel like an outsider. very often it's not your own feelings. That can be someone before you, and you pick that up and you relive certain things. After in my constellation, I spoke to my that lady, my ancestor, and I honored her, and but I stepped out to go into resonance with her, and that tremendously dropped my fear. Yeah, yeah, that I wanted to share. Um, like I want to say, like this is one influence I'm working with when we experience challenges or we are unhappy with how our life is. That's what it is. We are unhappy. So we can look, is there any ancestral influence? Is there something, sometimes things happened. I had like going back to business. I had a lady wanted to set up her own business. Didn't work. We did a constellation, you know what came up? It was a guilt feeling because of an
Now,
abortion.
what do you mean by a constellation? I know it's a therapist type term, but could you explain what a constellation is?
This is the family constellation. That's what I try to explain when you have a group of people. So it's a very good question because I just partially explained that. So you can have that in a group constellation and ask people to represent, let's see, the business, the blog, cash flow, or whatever revenue. Or I do it also in a one-to-one constellation. So and I would represent whatever the person brings into the room. And to give an example, so it makes it more understandable. Like with that lady, it was so she wanted to become self-employed and she had set up her business, but it was not running. And in the constellation, so when I was standing on the position business, so I or anyone else who's doing can sense and feel. You're just getting the information. You getting the information, and I explain maybe what my understanding is how it works and why we can do it. What I received as an information by doing that constellation work is that there was an abortion many years ago and she never dealt with that. No, this is not about pro or against abortion. It's not what it is. It's how the person handles that. And she had so much guilt that she unconsciously sabotaged herself because she thought she doesn't deserve, and it was not conscious to her. So sometimes we see the result in the outside world. We don't understand that. Maybe we did everything what we had to do, like maybe in relationships, like why do I not finding my partner? Maybe in business, I ticked all the boxes, did all the marketing. Why is it not working? So there can be things unconsciously where we ourselves holding ourselves up doing it. Either it is because something in our own experiences in our life, number one. Number two, it is something in our family system, generations before us. That can be they maybe they stole, they killed to get inheritance. That all has an influence. It's not that doesn't have an influence, it still influences next generations. This is number two. Number three, sometimes a person, and it's where I use regression, sometimes a person brings in that incarnation and information from which is not from, seems not from that lifetime. And that is still lived. It's kind of, these information are frequency. They in it was very, very interesting. Like I was just listening yesterday to an interview with David Icke and and he, but also others, the way we could explain it, yes, it seems very real here, and it is real, but at the end, it's all frequency and vibration. So our belief patterns, what we are thinking, anything in our family system, anything we brought in here from other existence, let's call it past lives, previous
Is
experiences,
this
experiences.
is this embedded in your DNA, like epigenetics? Is it something within your actual
I believe
biofield?
it's
You're not remembering it. It's just built in.
just there. It's built in. It's interesting. I just read about it when a mother is pregnant and she gives birth to the first child. The child holds cells from the mother in the physical body, and that is the information piece on the physical level. On the physical level, and then when the mother gives birth to a second child, she also holds cells from the first child she has born. And the second child now receives cells from the first child. Let's see, the first child is a brother. So she would, the second child will be a daughter. And the daughter now receives cells from the mother, but also from the brother. That's quite new. So she has that information in her system. And that's how we can explain how generations are linked to each other on the physical level. So we are not disconnected from each other. Everything is connected. So
Is
you're
is
holding
that
information.
is that where the so-called bloodlines come from?
Yeah, I mean, and we both know what's going on with the bloodline, like all, let's call it elite families, where
But
they try
we're living in a
to,
situation where the key thing that's being attacked is the family. The breaking our families up.
I would say, trying. Let's
Okay.
like that, try.
So
The thing
continue. This is
is, like,
fascinating.
that's fucking what I would like to share is also, yeah, it seems like I'm just a single person, like you might think, hey, so much going on in the world, like if you go in, if you look a little bit, like how the system is working, government, the rest of it, like, and it seems like, hey, what can I do against that? And it seems like I'm just that little person. No, it's not like that because you have to go in the spirit. In the spirit, everything is equal. In the spirit, no one controls you. Here, yes. In the physical, yes, of course, like can be arrested by the police or whatever, and they can abuse their power. It's possible. But in the spirit, it is not possible. In the spirit, we all are equal. No one is above or below, and no one can manipulate you. Why? Because in the spirit, you cannot lie, you cannot hide, because everything is open, everything. And we are inherently spiritual beings. That's, yeah, sure, that's a physical body, but like that's not our natural state. That's a very interesting experience for us to be in the physical body, how it is to have organs, how it is to have eat food, because usually we don't do that. Yeah. So what we're calling dying, like and Mary Hensley spoke about it. Everyone who has an NDE will speak about that when they left the body, they saw the body, and very often they even don't recognize it's them. They just say, "Hey, who's that person lying down there on the bed when they had an accident?" Yeah, it's because that's not really us. That's what we are using here to have the experience. And what I like to do with the therapy, but also like bringing across as a message is that in the spirit realm we can do a lot. Um, we have a lot of power there. It's and I think we are heading towards to remember that yes, we are in the physical right now. Yes, we have that body, and yes, we can have sicknesses and so on. But it's an end. It's not either or, it's an end. But we also are spiritual beings, and we can use our power to manifest, our power to change circumstances for us, to change the way we experience reality here. And what I
This is
found
really
out,
important. This
it is really important, but we have to be aligned. So our spirit, it sounds maybe a little bit contradictional, but there is a human personality with their needs. We all have needs for shelter, needs for food, needs to be loved, needs to be seen, accepted, heard. So they're human needs. That's the personality connected to the body. The body has its own personality. But we as a spirit, or let's call it soul, we are in the body. So that's our true existence. So, and then we are aligning, like, let's see, coming back, I want to set up my own business or have my own business, I want it to work. So we have to be, our spirit has to be aligned with our human personality. It has to be aligned. It cannot be like that. If it's like this, I will manifest that what I believe most, because that's where I put the most energy in there. And that's what I'm seeing. Like if you look, I don't know, Miles, if you interviewed people that had beside NDEs also out of body experiences, OBEs. And that's this lovely young man. It's Darius White, and he is quite in the public right now. He shares his experiences and what he and many others too. What they found out: as soon as you're outside of the body, you're manifest, if you know or not. You just see straight away with your thoughts. And that's my, I know I'm just going into so many different topics here, but it's also why I don't know if you ever wondered why there's a different NDE experiences, because people manifest. That's what we do. And we do it every moment
So I mean,
of
this is a thing like alien abduction, or that they manifesting that? Is that a real thing that they're involved, or what? Is this something you've dealt with in your therapies?
it's a very good question. I don't have the answer. I can just share what I personally believe. And also like admit that can be wrong, by the way. Always find your own truth. Yeah. So like where do I have my the way I'm seeing it is about my own experiences, about the regression. I saw people, regressing back into the womb of their mothers, telling me things. I saw people regressing back in a time not from this timeline, like looks like a past life. I saw through constellation work how ancestors and former family systems influence people. And I saw the change, by the way, if it's when they change it, when they're stepping out, when they're not going in resonance anymore. I see changes there. And about my studies, I watch so many NDE experiences, what they're telling us, when they remember. The way I'm seeing it myself is, if I share that, I know I'll go really far out here, but I believe at the end there's only one. There's only one. There's not many. There's
Is
only
that to do
one.
with the law of one, the
No,
so-called law of one?
I would not know about
No.
that.
Okay.
I know I've heard about it, but I never studied it. Um, I believe there is one you could call one conscious, one God, one divine being, and everything exists in that, and that's the foundation. And anything what we experience in that world, including ET, it's 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 a manifestation, basically, what we as the one are creating, basically.
So how do we
Like it's
know where do these creative thoughts come from? This manifestation thoughts. A friend of mine described that she had poverty thinking. So you manifest poverty. So she stopped doing poverty thinking, and then you manifest a different wave, a
yes,
different energy.
exactly. It's what you do. If we think about energy and frequency and fields, that's the way I'm doing it. They're just fields with information, informational fields, information about yourself, and you're filling it with what you're believing in. Because thoughts is energy. We cannot touch it. We cannot see it. It's energy. It's a frequency. I'm holding that. And when I'm holding that, let's go to relationships. That's what I'm seeing very often. I see people meet each other, um, because they experience trauma and they hold a certain belief in their system, and now they're meeting someone else, and that person also experienced a trauma, let's see, abuse, another abuse, and they are meeting because they are meeting in their trauma field. Yeah, and that can cause a lot of issues. Yeah, because like when you experience trauma, you create certain identities, you create paths because you psyche split. And I know I'm just touching so many different areas trying to
Yes, I
fit it
mean
all.
the term trauma is it seems in Ireland, like many places, but a lot of people are so heavily traumatized now since the
Might be living
trauma.
in a
I mean, is the
society. Yes.
trauma what is that increasing as a result of the last couple of years that we can't really talk about that everybody seems to be ignoring?
It's I think from my understanding, the talk about trauma comes more and more into the public. I mean, like in the 80s, no one talked about trauma. I know, like even the 70s, it was not even taught to psychologists and psychotherapists to work with sexual abuse. It was not much around, but it's very much into the public right now. And what happens when we are traumatized? Let's see, someone has been sexually abused as a child. Yeah. In order to survive that, basically, you split in your psyche. You
So
split.
a person
Meant.
could be severely traumatized, but on an outer level, they're getting on with the new life they've tried to. It's escaping from this trauma. They create a
That's
new
what.
life.
That's what do you do? So we fragment. So you fragment, and oh, I just see. Hold on, Miles. Just give me a moment. I have to
I
call
think we're getting a
Abduction.
little bit of interference on this. My screen here is
Yeah,
going blank.
I just have to sense my battery. Just give me one moment. So sorry about it. Just one moment. I have to change my battery from the camera. That's what happens.
Ah,
Just one sec.